Hey, what's up? Silas here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how snowflakes built the West, or snowflakes may be the reason for why the West actually exists. Now, this is several ways. A lot of the people are talking about the IQ things, and this is something I think I rather agree with, where it's like the places where there's actually seasons and winter and things like that. You had to pay attention with what was happening and prepare for the worst, and that kind of selected for a certain kind of mentality, a certain kind of personality. And since we are biological creatures, then we create cultures, and then with those cultures, we create societies based off those cultures or things like that. It's like the biology, then the civilization, then the behavioral patterns that those civilizations have. Or I don't know if it's the behavioral patterns and then the civilization. But anyway, those are based off of the biology. So the kind of person that's going to be more sensitive to what happens when the winter comes through, when the snow comes through, will develop an entirely different society. And it may select for different things. Possibly IQ. I don't really find too big of a problem with that. Now, another part that I have been kind of thinking about lately that other people may not really consider, this is the part I'm really asking you guys about this, is how about the actual snowflakes, in the political sense of snowflakes, both in the political left and the political right? Because I think there are also political left, like right snowflakes. Some people freaking out about some things where I'm like, come on now, people, it's not a big deal. To me, like the NFL kneeling thing, I'm like, yeah, a couple of people kneel, it's not that big of a deal. But I guess some people, it's really tied into the patriotism and they feel the flag has been insulted, or they're like, I've been watching these people for 20 years, and I've talked about this in several videos. It was like, okay, I've been watching these people for 20 years, but now there's like 0.0001% of them are taking a knee. Now the entire league, they're disrespecting the country. I'm not watching anymore. Okay, I think that's a snowflake move to bail out on something like that. Because you bail out, and then how much is it really affecting? And this similar thing, there's a lot of snowflake things on the left. The entire social justice warrior movement isn't pretty much a snowflake movement. But why I'm saying that this snowflake thing may be part of the building aspects of the West is you look at higher IQ populations, if you go by race, in Asia. There's not too much snowflake stuff in that. They're like, no, we're not going to give lip service or allow the snowflakes to do what they do. Those societies are rather buttoned up and rather serious. You have, like, Japan is not, I don't think it's a snowflake society. It's gotten to the point where it's divided into small little sections, and if you have like an otaku or you have this different thing, you can still be Japanese within that culture, but you have a very set group or location where you go and you do that kind of you enter that kind of group and society that you want, but that group and society does not necessarily make demands for other societies. Like, people who are really into manga and stuff like that are not making demands for the rest of the society to be into manga or to change manga in a certain way. Like, manga is a good example. You don't really have people saying, oh, I want all manga to be this way, to be inclusive of something I like. It's like, no, they find it, and then they find, like, with manga, you can find a small little different genres for pretty much any random thing you can think of. There's a little genre for that manga, for those people who have those interests. So I think it's more divided that way. Now you go to developing countries. I've had more experience here in Kenya, and I mean, it's growing up in Nairobi. Maybe there's a little more of this social justice type things, but in general, in developing countries, I don't think there's places for a lot of social justice type of behavior. And another thing you see, at least here in Kenya, is people often say with problems, "Hii ni Kenya." It's like, this is Kenya. That's the way it is. They accept that. I think the level of acceptance of certain things is a lot higher than it is in a place like the United States of America. Same in Asia. I think they just like, you don't really have acceptance, but it's kind of like, this is what I do, but I accept that other people don't want me to do this thing. Now, in the West, the United States of America specifically, they may be a part of it where the fact that people have such a low threshold for disturbance and also a very high level of them wanting to be accepted by the rest of society in a way, they make certain pushes and say, hey, I want this to be done in a certain way, and get into certain groups, and then those groups kind of say, okay, is this something that we want to do as a society, as a culture, or am I actually going to try to actually cater to these people in this way? And that makes them try something out that they wouldn't have tried out in a different way. Similar to the opposite end of the spectrum. Somebody has a really low level of tolerance at something where something is just goes a little wrong. They have such a high standard where they think things should be exactly the way they want. So if something's just like 5% wrong, they'll complain and make a big deal out of it. Whereas in another culture, they might be like, I'm going to wait until it's 50% wrong. And once it's 50% wrong, maybe the problem is you can't fix it anymore, and then the thing goes wrong. But maybe those people who complain at 5% wrong, they get enough of the society to pay attention, and then there's people in that society either address that 5%, or they figure out that that 5% is not really an issue, and then they keep doing what they were doing even stronger, and it strengthens the things that can actually survive those 5%. So things get tested, I think, a lot more in the United States of America, and snowflakes might be doing that. Snowflake attitudes may be kind of testing people and making people question their beliefs a lot faster and a lot more in the West than you do with the places where there's certain acceptance, like in developing countries. I'd say there's a lot of acceptance of very negative things. Or you have these high IQ places like in Asia and different cultures where instead of them actually trying to unite you in the group, they just say, okay, you can do that, but just this is your space, you do it over there. So what do you guys think about that snowflake thing? Another part of this is this meme based off of that is this a pigeon meme, which is that anime character that you guys might have seen. It's looking up at a butterfly, and then the subtitles is like, is this a pigeon? Pretty much it's not a pigeon, and the guy is just going with something off. So people have done different plays on this, and it's the butterfly in this one is mental illness. The anime character is black parents, and the subtitles is this that white-ished? So with this, it's African American families. I asked a few people to confirm what I had observed from the little experience that I've had. They don't really accept mental illness as that big of an issue. Definitely not accepted that big of an issue here in a place like Africa, just talking about the effect of childhood trauma, for example, when it comes to how kids are raised and things like that. That's not treated, unless it's like Down syndrome, which is like, okay, I can clearly tell there's something off mentally with this person, or just complete hysterics, speaking in tongues and things like that. But maybe even speaking in tongues might even be more accepted in certain cultures. But just going to that point where I think in white communities, in my experience, therapy is something that's a lot more accepted and agreed, and people take a lot more attention to that. Now, my question is also, is therapy a bigger deal in Asian countries, in these quote-unquote higher IQ communities than the white community? How is it treated in those communities, if you know about that? But I think that is another thing where definitely a level where it's accepted in Western society, in like a white country in the United States of America, this person actually has an issue that's a mental issue that we're actually going to address. In another country, that might not even achieve like anywhere close to even, that might be what people say, oh, that's a snowflake, that's such a minor thing, don't even worry about it. Do you think that's a thing? I mean, the IQ thing, I think a lot of people are probably watching this my channel will probably agree with the IQ thing. How it came to be, I think there is certain differences in IQs, and I do think that it's ridiculous to think the weather had nothing to do with it. Just like it's raining now, it's going to change the way people react in certain ways, and then there's selective pressures that happen with that over years and years and years and years and decades and millennia and however long it took us to evolve. So it's kind of ridiculous to think that's not going to happen. Physical changes happen in there. Our brains are part of our physical selves, most important part of our physical selves. So it makes sense there's going to be changes. But yeah, more of you or the actual input on that whole, why do you think that snowflake type of thing, people being very touchy on certain things, seems to be more in the West? And if you live in other countries that are not in the West, or you have, or familiar with them, let me know if you've noticed an upbringing of that, because it could just be an urban, rural thing. I've had some experience in the rural area of United States of America, and I'm trying to remember if there was that much snowflake kind of things there, or is it just because we're seeing what's happening in the cities a lot more in the media? It's getting a lot more attention than what is actually happening in the entire United States of America. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. This is Silas. Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, definitely subscribe. Let me know. Hit the notification bell. Also, I think the shirt for this post, I have this shirt, White People. I'm going to put it on the screen now. You can check that out. You can go to the store. I have a store on Redbubble. You can buy some shirts there and some other merchandise. And yeah, till next video, goodbye. So if you guys actually do get this white people shirt, when I first found it was this meme that I did this other video based off of like slavery. No, it was slavery, or it was something talking about white people in in Black Panther. White people complaining why Black Panther is all black when thing like Lord of the Rings was just all white people. But here, this spelling of it's hilarious. If you go to the store and you get that sticker, try posting it in certain places and then coming back in a while and seeing if people actually like check in or say anything. Because I think this kind of thing that can actually trigger some people. It would probably trigger people on the political right who are like, I can't believe somebody's posting this. But it also would be interesting to see what people on the political left who may agree with some of these privilege and appropriation and things like that on this checklist may actually agree with it and think you are supporting it. But yeah, if you can do that and take photographs and send them in, be much appreciated.